By now you've probably seen the reports from loads of YouTube channels. They all speak of views being down across the board from some point in August. This happened to us as well, but I thought it was mostly down to slow news and us uploading less. And look, for us, that absolutely is a factor. But then I saw Second Wind, Linus Tech Tips, Red Letter Media, and loads of other people across loads of other niches on YouTube who are all reporting the same thing. So, are we all going insane? Here's basically the situation. I've now got some data that suggests that something has changed on YouTube, and it's not just the restricted mode thing you've heard about, and it's not just the like to view ratio thing that you may have heard of as well, though that is also something that I can confirm. Being real with you, this is certainly a worrying one. I mean, even just the hit to sponsorship revenue stings, and there could be decreased reach for content. That's a rocky situation. And look, that does mean it's kind of time for the Bernie Sanders gif. The best way to help us weather this storm is over at Bellular.games. That's where you'll get our videos directly, early, and ad-free. That's from both adverts and sponsorships. And perhaps best of all, something you don't know about, which is the 5 editions of loading screen that you'll get every week. And after years of honing in what loading screen is, man, it is an absolute banger. You'll get stories that we just can't cover in video form in the main channel, upcoming releases, breaking stories, lots of things that go underreported. And for the next fortnight, I'm running a celebratory discount. Thanks, YouTube, for new members. Now, look, we're a small bootstrap team, and your support goes a long-ass way to helping us keep this show on the road. That said, though, let's pile in. The first sign of something odd came during mid-August, whenever I noticed YouTube's real-time analytics data stopped behaving normally. And when I say normally, I mean how it's behaved literally for years. Basically, here's how it works. The number that you see on youtube.com is the public view count. But there's another number, which is the private real-time views. We get those minute to minute, and we get them in the YouTube Studio backend. Now, the real-time data is almost always higher and more current than the public view counts. And this is where my first clue came in. Because one day I published a video, and something happened completely backwards. The real-time views looked minuscule. The chart just didn't move the way that it has done for years. But when I refreshed youtube.com, I saw that the public views were actually way higher. And that would suggest that, I guess, real-time wasn't counting something that public was. This was very confusing. I'd never seen that before. Then, over the next few weeks, I started to notice more instances of the real-time data basically acting weird compared to how it normally acts. And this might sound odd, but YouTube's impression distribution tends to follow a pattern. It'll often be individualized to a channel and an audience, and as a YouTuber of over a decade, I've got a bit of a sixth sense for it. So I knew something was off, but as I said, we were uploading a bit less, there was no alarm bells in my head, but then that changed. My teammates posted reports from Second Wind and others saying that something strange was happening. And initially, it seemed to be related to restricted mode, and that led me to doing a test. The test was real simple. I just turned on restricted mode on my phone, and I took note of what videos disappeared. And of 30 videos sampled from the start of July onward, 14 were age restricted and 16 were not age restricted. But here's the really strange thing. If I go onto YouTube Studio, I see no restriction label for any of these videos. They just simply vanish whenever I enable restricted mode. And YouTube's own wording is downright misleading here, because when you mouse over the restrictions column in Studio, it says, any restrictions that impact your video, see if anything is limiting your video's audience or ability to earn money. It's a bit weird because for all of these videos, it says literally nothing, even though they are not there on restricted mode. A bit of a red flag, and enough for me to start gathering up some data. And that is where things got real interesting, and where eventually I was able to find something kind of huge. To start, I noted the publishing date, view count, and restriction status for our 30 most recent videos, and as I said, 14 restricted, 16 non-restricted. And the view counts definitely tell a story. Restricted videos averaged 250k, non-restricted videos averaged 421k. That's way more views, and the overall average is 341k, so a clear advantage to non-restricted videos. Now, because averages can be skewed by outliers, I also checked medians. Same result, a clear advantage to non-restricted videos. But what about some of the bigger outliers? I trimmed the top and the bottom performers. There was a video that got 1.8 million views and another one that got 40k videos, so I trimmed those out, and it still shows a substantial advantage to non-restricted videos. So the data here is very clear indeed. But where it gets weird is YouTube's denial and how the rabbit hole then got way deeper. So as I was beavering away with my own numbers, other people were talking about this publicly, Josh Strife Hayes among them, and YouTube replied to him. They said that restricted mode has existed since 2010, and they're absolutely correct. Everyone on YouTube knows that. But what is new is a new AI-based age estimation system that's being tested in the United States, and that started August 13th. And essentially, if your watch history suggests you're not 18, they treat you as not being 18. And the reason why is fairly simple. Legal liability. And as things like, say, the UK's Online Safety Act shows, basically a company saying, our user told us they were of age, it's their fault that they saw something they shouldn't have, that's kind of not enough anymore for governments. Governments want verification, so something like this is likely a precautionary measure. And to add to this, creator liaison Rene Ritchie, who himself was a YouTuber and journalist before he joined Google, he quoted another YouTube user essentially repeating the same thing. Now, my initial hypothesis was that something was going on with restrictions and that was leading to our data changes. Now, I don't think YouTube would do anything malicious. They're actually quite a bit more creator-friendly than many other large platforms. But their flat denial doesn't really match what people are reporting. Now, they claim that the only number they had on restricted was that it impacted 1.5% of accounts as of 2017. And certainly, if those initial numbers from me and others are anything to go by, it's a little bit more than 1.5%. Now, I sent my initial findings to Rene, who is again the creator liaison, and he gave me one reply, and he just asked whether it was a seasonality thing, essentially people going back to school. Now, that's quite obviously not relevant for this particular gaming channel. We're not really spring chickens over here. My main demo is 25 to 45-year-old people. So unless you guys are all teachers who like to watch from a restricted account while you're at work, then that doesn't really apply and there's something else. Now, by this point in the investigation, I built up a little bit of a theory. Essentially, what if what we're seeing is a second-order effect of something YouTube has been doing on their backend? I don't think YouTube's denials are purposeful gaslighting or anything like that, and as much as what they said seems tone deaf, I think they genuinely aren't or weren't aware of what was happening on the platform. That's because YouTube is used on many devices, many genres of content, many audiences, all of whom have distinct viewing patterns. And basically, the things that we're seeing could very easily be lost in the aggregate data. But after going deeper down the rabbit hole, I actually no longer think that is purely the case. And that's because of two discoveries. One is from another group of people, the other one is from me, and when we bring these things together, we begin to understand what the hell is happening. First off, here's the thing that I discovered, and it is really quite shocking. A massive reversal has happened in mobile versus computer traffic, and it did start around August 13th. So take a look at this data here. You can see that from July through to early August, computer and mobile were neck and neck, or desktop would be higher. That was pretty much always the case. Computer actually beat out mobile 9 out of 12 days in the 12 days leading up to August 13th. But then August 13th happens and we see something insane. Views from computers basically fall off. And after that date, computer beats mobile 0 days in the data set of these most recent videos. That's weird, and the relative percentages tell the story in very clear terms. The desktop to mobile split is 56% in favor of desktop in July, but after August 13th, that flips to being 39.3% computer, meaning a 16.7% relative swing in the direction of mobile. And to be clear, one driven not by an increase in mobile views, rather by a decrease in computer views. Now, this could be explained if we, say, changed our content, but we haven't. Nothing about our content has changed. And I do know one thing. On mobile, most people use the YouTube app. That's where YouTube monetizes through adverts and through premium. You can't use an ad blocker on the actual YouTube app. Over on desktop, I imagine most people do use an ad blocker. YouTube certainly has a strong incentive to push mobile views because they simply monetize better, and the same goes, I believe even slightly more, for YouTube and TV. But that my friends, is not all that has happened. 2 weeks ago, Brody Robertson noticed something strange. His views were down, but his engagement remained the same. And by engagement, he means the ratio of views to likes. Before the change, he was averaging a ratio of 0.068. After the change, it fell to 0.155. So just as many people were liking the video, it's just there was way less views. Now, Dan from Linus Tech Tips noticed this, and then he ran the numbers for their channel, and guess what? He found the same goddamn thing. He even found it for other channels, and he's been building some analytics tools to get to the bottom of this. Seeing all that, I ran our own numbers. They're a little different because I'm doing views per like, because I think it's a little bit more human readable. So before the change, we were averaging 26.4 views per like. After the change, it's 15.36. That's an absolutely huge change in the ratio, and it's one not driven by way more likes, it's one driven by less views. And the point is that this is consistent across lots of different videos. It's not just that the averages happen to be that, but the averages are masking the truth. Now, I experienced less of a swing than Brody did, though I would note we're different channels, and I would love to see what his computer views are like versus mobile. And I say that because ours were certainly different, but he's a very Linux-focused channel. So if his like-to-view ratio swing was way larger than ours, and his viewers are disproportionately desktop viewers because it's focused on Linux, then maybe his mobile to desktop swing would also be larger than ours. But the upshot here is that our core viewers are clearly still viewing and liking our videos just as much. The ratio has went up because views have went down. But what if I told you that something has went up? RPM, or revenue per mille, is quite simply the amount that we get per 1,000 views on our channel, and that is from YouTube advertisements. And RPM has actually went up, but it's not translating to more earnings because the views have went down. And the reason why the RPM has went up quite clearly is that we're getting a same or similar number of monetizable views, but the overall number of counted views are going down, which would make the overall RPM be higher. Now, if this is primarily hitting desktop, then I think it could suggest something to do with ad block or how YouTube is counting desktop views, because there are other things that could be involved. As an example, data scraping. Now, Google won't let a competing AI lab slurp down the contents of YouTube via their API, but what they can do is just run browser agents on virtual machines. That's basically how loads of data scraping is done now. If Google found a way to block those views or simply not count them, then maybe it could be that that stuff was just inflating desktop views and now things are back down and normal again. But that's just a theory, and all of these are just theories. And very much top of my mind is that YouTube does have an incentive to have more stuff going on mobile and television. Though to be clear, I think this is likely a mix of different factors, and as an example, there's the whole restricted thing. I don't really know what's going on there, especially because it doesn't show up right in YouTube Studio. It would seem to me, though, that there's something. I mean, just look at the basic averages and medians that people are seeing. Though I obviously can't say it's definitely that. It could be that these things are all correlative, but it's not all, causation. Right now, it's hard to know. And I think what we need from YouTube is a detailed account of what the hell is going on here. Let's talk about impact. Things like YouTube have often got feedback loops. I mean, if we're getting fewer views, does that mean we'll get less discovery in the platform? When I look through some of our content, it certainly does suggest that the more algorithmic view sources are down a bit. Or is it that certain segments of our users are just not being served our content as much as they used to be? I don't know, it's hard to tell. But I do know the incentives, that YouTube wants mobile and TV because that's where the money is, and the likes of the AI age restriction thing are, well, them getting ahead of legal liability. Now, those are cases where, while it is true that YouTube's success is, or should be, our success as creators, sometimes our incentives are not aligned. As an example, they might have to comply with draconian laws in a way that hurts the rest of us. And big picture, I'm kind of worried something like that could be going on. Another factor of this, as well as the sponsorship side of things, loads of sponsor deals are based on CPM. Basically, view counts directly correlate to how much a brand pays. Because of that, view counts actually matter. Trust in view counts being accurate is vital to the economic engine that lets us as an industry make content that you enjoy specifically for you, by people like you, versus, for an example, Netflix, the big streaming services, or old school TV, where content often has to be far more broad appeal. And that's one of the things that's the best about the creator economy. And to see an example of this going badly, just look at, say, the advertiser worry over all of the view botting and weird ass stuff that's been going on Twitch. Now, if we all can't trust YouTube, then sponsor confidence will drop. And that is directly how you get layoffs, reductions in scale, reductions in output, and the usual things that occur when an industry has its confidence shaken. Obviously, I don't want any of that to happen to our team, and as someone who basically does watch stuff made by teams similar to my own, I don't want to see that happen to the people who make videos that I really enjoy. So what I'm going to do is keep digging into the data. If you see anything odd or you have felt changes in your YouTube, please share in the comments. And, well, in times like this, I cannot thank our members at Bellular.games enough. Thank you, it makes a difference, and I'm going to run a promo for new members to help us out with this fun news situation. There's a link down below. We'd love to have you. Support really helps, and of course you'll get early ad and sponsor-free videos as well as loading screen every weekday. All right, till next time, wish me luck. For a palate cleanser, if you want to see a team absolutely being able to deliver and just treating people right, you gotta check out what's up with No Man's Sky in this video next.